Hey everybody, a few thoughts about your research paper before the final submission is due at the end of the week here. I think that they're shaping up really well. People have clearly been progressing. Um, I want to make a couple of comments based on grading the last few discussions. From time to time, what I see is that problems or mistakes in APA style in particular that were made in earlier discussion posts where feedback was provided, correct APA style was discussed, uh, that mistake then hasn't been corrected and has actually been carried forward to the most recent discussions. So this is a problem, and I want to explain to you that in the discussion posts as we went along, these are really working discussions, and so when I see somebody try an in-text citation, try the title page, that's what I'm looking for. If they're making the effort, that they're discussing it, they're trying to work it out, and they're getting some feedback on it. And as long as folks do that, they will potentially earn full credit in that discussion. Where people were losing credit was when they did not make an attempt at what was specifically asked for in that discussion post. So at any rate, when I see problems being carried forward, that's sort of a red flag to me that students have not necessarily gone back and made the corrections that were pointed out. So maybe you didn't read the discussion feedback, maybe you just put off making that correction. Whatever, this is the week to go back, review all that, and make sure things are in line before you make your final submission of your research paper. When you do that, the final one, there will be points taken off if things are incorrect on the title page or in a reference and so on. Okay, so that's the first point. The second point I want to review with you is that this research paper should be 6 total pages long. 1 page is the title page. 1 page is the reference page. So that's the first page, the title page, the last page, the reference page on its own, separate page. So those are 2 of the 6. That leaves you with 4 pages of content. So I look for 4 pages. I really hold people to that. And so for instance, if your introduction using Hockenberry and Hockenberry, our textbook, is only about half a page, what that means then is that your biographical information might be a little bit longer than a page. Your journal article information might be a little bit longer than 2 pages, and that tends to fill out the 4 pages. Also, a lot of times, some transition sentences from one idea to the next will help make it a 4-page paper. So some of the papers that I've seen are not 4 pages, and I just want you to remember that. That is what I'm looking for of content. So it'll be title page, then up half to a page of introductory information from your textbook, and then between a page, page and a half of biographical information, and then if 2 pages perhaps based on the journal article you found, or if you were needing a little bit more, it might be say 2.5 pages. There's a little bit of flexibility between each of those pieces, but the final product should be 4 pages long. So 4 pages of writing, the reference page plus the title page equals 6 total pages. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about 2 specific things. The first one is how to do your reference for the journal article from Academic Search Premier, the library database. And the second thing I want to visit is how to view and use your originality report. Okay, so first we're going to go back to this research paper discussion number 10. And this one was the one where you added the reference, the academic, Academic Search Premier, ASP I call it, the online database. So here we go, we're going to click on the Purdue website, and just scroll down. This is a link that was in discussion number 10, so you can go back there if you need to. So the electronic database academic search premier, I looked in electronic sources here. If you click there, it shows you a couple of different things. Article from an online periodical. We want to go down a little bit more. Article from an online periodical with DOI assigned. I'm just scrolling down to see, oh, look at this, article from a database. That fits pretty well with Academic Search Premier. So there is some general information here. And then if you go down, there are a couple of examples. So let's look at the examples. They tell you, again, with APA style, you use author's last name, comma, and then initials for first names or middle name. You include all the author names here, and then you have a begin parenthesis and the date of publication. Date of publication, I want you to limit yourself to year here. Okay, so just the year of publication. End parenthesis, period. Next comes the title of the article itself. And please notice here, these are not in italics. The title of the article, and I saw this error in a couple of references yesterday when I was looking at these papers as they've evolved so far. Sometimes folks are switching and italicizing the title of the article, but that does not use italics. So use the title of the article next with a period. Now notice here, the O and of and the A in article are small. So unless you have a proper noun, like for instance, the name Ebbinghaus, that would require a capital E because it's a person's last name. But if it is or not a proper noun like that, then you just use small letters in this title of the article. Okay, so title of the article, period. And then notice again, you're going to have this hanging indent where you tab in. Then we have the title of the journal. So let's say it's American Science Journal, something like that. That is in italics. And it does tend to have capital letters for the main words of the title of the journal. So title of journal, you can see it's capital J there. So if it was Psychology Journal, then the P in psychology and the J in journal would both be capital. And it would be in italics. Then you have a comma, and if you have a volume number, if you have a page range, it does go here in this APA style reference. Okay, and then there is a period after that. And I want to talk to you about what comes next. You can either have a DOI, digital object identifier, or you can have a URL. So you can see here it says, this is an example of using a URL, retrieved from, and notice it does not have any date here, so you don't need the date. Retrieved from, and then it has this URL. So as I said, you could also use, and actually APA prefers the use of a DOI. I'm going to scroll up here, article from an online periodical with a DOI assigned. So typically this is at the bottom of your journal article and it says DOI, and it's just a more accurate way and longer lasting way of finding this article, this source. So if somebody in a few years wants to go back and look for this source, a URL is more susceptible to being changed, whereas a DOI is more permanent. So if you have a DOI on your article, then you would just write DOI and have these little dot dot, and then include that whole long list of numbers instead of the URL. If you don't have a DOI, then we're back to using the URL. Okay, so here is an example. They have author's last name, they have initials for first names, and then we have the year of publication in parentheses, period. A study of enjoyment of peace. Notice it's not in italics, and these are small letters, enjoyment, peace, period. Then the Journal of Abnormal Eating is what's in italics, capitals with abnormal, capital with E for eating, comma, and then they have a volume information, they have page range, and then they go retrieved from, because this one doesn't have a DOI, and then there's the URL. Okay, so I would suggest that you go back and take a look at your reference for the journal article. Make sure it has that, because when I look at the reference page, which is one of the first things that I do, I need to see that you did indeed get an article from the Academic Search Premier. Okay, so I'm going to pause this and come back and talk to you about submitting for your originality report. Now I have changed the view here to cover a little different bit of information. This is about Dropbox and viewing your originality report. So this is a sample. I'm going in as a demo student. This is a sample document that I've put in just for demonstration purposes. So if you go into Dropbox, you would click on Dropbox from the toolbar menu, and you have submitted your paper. You can go back later to, you have to wait about 2 hours at the most, I think. Typically, people haven't told me more than 2 hours, for an originality report. And the originality report basically tells you how much of your paper is original and what percentage is traced back to a different source. Your research paper needs to be 15% or less, so this is a useful thing. So this one I've already clicked on Dropbox, and when you get here, you can view history. Now before I click on that, I want to show you this document I've already gone through and assigned a grade to. So after things have been graded, you'll see a score here. You'll see how many submissions this particular individual submitted, but I told you that I will grade the latest submission. And then here it says feedback in this column, and when you click here after I have finished grading, you can go in and look at feedback. But at this point, of course, I haven't done any grading. You might, though, want to look at your originality report. So you click on View History, and you'll see for these samples, I had 2 submissions here that did not go through. So when you have this little I, it means, you can see it here on the screen, the originality report cannot be generated for this file type. And it tells you what file types do work. So if you get that little I icon, you need to pay attention to what it's telling you to do. Okay, so this one, I submitted a document, some random document, which generated a report. It told me 5% was non-original, which is below the required amount, which is great. Then if you hover over this blue, it says View Originality Report. So you'll have some color there. You click on it, and you'll see that your document, this is my pretend document, comes up, and the Screencast-O-Matic will show you some of this, but it'll be a little bit bigger than this screen. But here's my document. I can scroll down, and anywhere it's highlighted, that means that I have an issue with that it's non-original. And then, so then it gives you a number, a little 2. 2 over here tells you what the source is, where that non-original piece they claim it came from. So as you scroll down, you can get any non-original pieces highlighted, and then you can go and see what's going on over here. So when you have this information, it's useful because then you would go back and re-summarize or re-paraphrase anything that's marked as non-original, and you can get it down to the point where it's not then flagged, so to speak, as being from a different source. So you want to re-summarize, change it more in your own words, and then it will stop flagging it as non-original. If you have any questions, let me know. I appreciate your attention to this.